What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Boulda Sports Talk. I'm your host, Matthias, and we got a packed show for you today. We'll be starting in the state of Iowa with some Iowa State news and some Iowa Hawkeye news. Then we're heading over to UNI to talk about some hot takes. Then we're heading north to talk about some Wartburg takes too. We'll be talking about some big transfer portal news, and we'll be finishing up with some pro sports news. So let's head right into it.
And you are watching Boulda Sports Talk.
So let's start at Iowa State because they just made a statement this past week. This past week they put out an announcement that they're going to have an important meeting on Thursday, and that they had some big news. So a lot of speculation was going around. For Iowa State, they didn't tell us what sport it was, but it was the athletics page that posted it. So people were putting out a lot of speculation. If you guys didn't know, Iowa State did cut their gymnastics team a couple months ago due to some player issues, coaching issues, and parent issues. And they kind of teased a little thing that was going to happen, that they're going to look for a new team to kind of be put into place of the gymnastics team. So a lot of speculation was going around about what teams are going to be put in, and the news for that came out Thursday said they'll be adding a women's wrestling team, just like their rivals at Iowa Hawkeyes. Loki kind of copying them, if you say so. So Iowa State is bringing on Allie St. John's as the women's head wrestling coach. She's a 6-time Team USA team member, 2-time world silver medalist, multiple-time national champion, and first woman inducted into the Glenn Brand Wrestling Hall of Fame. This is big. This is big for women's sports, big for Iowa State, big for Iowa sports. Having Allie St. John's there as a person who's a women's wrestler and has made multiple impacts into women's wrestling is pretty big. I think she's been a great coach. She's a great mentor for the women's wrestling. Having someone like her to coach Iowa State women's is going to be great. So they're bringing this team on in the 27-28 year. So in a few years, 2 years, they'll be bringing this team on. So they're going to be starting their, recruiting process pretty soon. And yeah, I think this is going to be a great program for Iowa State to have. I can't wait for Iowa State Iowa duels. That's going to be electric, and I'm hoping I'll be there to watch it and cover it. I'll keep you guys updated. That's not. Then they also talked about Brent Metcalf leading the men's program and Kevin Dresser overseeing everything. So Brent Metcalf is now the men's head coach, as Kevin Dresser is the director of wrestling, which is great. Brent was the assistant coach, as Kevin was the head coach. Great for the program. I'm glad that they're looking for a different direction. Iowa State isn't catching up, but they're trying to take over the sport of wrestling. But Big 12 is adding a big program, and I'm glad they are doing that. So let's head over to our next segment. Should UNI add a women's wrestling team? Now, this leads into the next question. Should UNI add a women's wrestling team? Because right now, if you're watching what Iowa State is doing, Iowa doing, Wartburg College doing, a bunch of other colleges are doing, Simpson, you're either moving or falling behind or living under a rock. The pros are obvious: growth of the sport, more opportunities, more recruiting pipelines. But there's a lot of cons, like funding, facilities, and the right leadership. Who's going to be their head coach? Obviously it has a bunch of coaches, great coaches, Schwab, some great coaches, some great wrestlers that they came out of UNI. So who's going to lead them? But for facilities, UNI's, work on facilities. Back in, I think, 2023, they talked about having a new facility built, but they are lack funding. Smaller college, smaller wrestling programs, smaller funding. They don't have a lot of money in the bank, and they're looking for donors. So if you're watching this and want to donate to them, please do, because they're living off pretty much the couch, and they are surviving by the bare knees. But they're way better than some of these other D1 colleges, even though they lack the facilities and lack the funding because they have the right leadership. Law schools don't have the right leaderships, but they have the best funding and best facilities. And some people may be saying, why don't Schwab leave UNI because of UNI's funding and facilities? Because Schwab called UNI home for a long time, and he won't leave. He has grown a great community, great fan base. His kids live up here, his wife, his two daughters, his two sons, state champs. I think he would never leave UNI. He might leave it for the right thing, but right now he's building UNI. So I think UNI women's wrestling's out the window. Is more building UNI. Now let's head down to some transfer portal news. Masama Ndine to Little Rock. Masama Ndine is a 6-time wrestling Pro All-American. He's a 3-time D3 national champion. And he transferred 3 times from Iowa City Lakes Community College, Wartburg College, then to Iowa University. At Iowa, he only played 6 to 7 games and was injured at the end. After his injury, he was battling with a lot of personal issues. He was having a kid, and a lot of people were wondering why he was not on the roster anymore. They are still not saying anything. A lot of people, there's a lot, speculation going around saying that, they were trying to make him take some drugs, but he didn't want to. They were trying to make him, they were mad at him for taking care of his kid because he had a kid. A lot of speculation was going around, and this Texas native, I think he's a great kid, but he went down south to wrestle at Little Rock, home of the Trojans. Sometimes it's not talent, it's a system development and opportunity. And for Ndine, clearly something wasn't clicking at Iowa. And for Iowa, it wasn't clicking with Ndine. So, a lot of legit athletes with real upside. And a lot of real athletes will quit and look for a bigger, better school to go to. But Ndine, and how he, has wrestled, he decided to go to a smaller D1 school with a running program. So I think he's going to grow this program. And he's going to get a lot of mat time because he didn't get a lot of mat time at Iowa. He's going to get a chance to reset and actually compete and not be scared to take some drugs or whatever. Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity for him to learn to be great, and I can't wait to see him in the pros, or if he will come to the pros. So as we're talking about Ndine, let's move over to Iowa wrestling. They have gone downhill, as you can tell. As I talked in the past, Iowa wrestling, and yeah, I'm saying it, I feel like it's trending downhill. You look at dominance, and it's not the same. Recruiting, or they landing the same top tier guys constantly, not like before. The athlete support, the brands are not doing it for them, and a lot of the coaching, it's not the same like it was before with Dan Gable. How brands build something legendary, but every program hits a point where you gotta ask, what's next? What's next for the program? Should they still be doing the same things back and back, or should they be, moving, looking for something else? Who steps in? Do you stay within the system or bring in someone new? Is there someone in the program that could step up as a head coach, like Iowa State just did? I think Tom Brand's and the Brand family needs to, finally just say it's quits. They are not great anymore, and they're dealing with a lot of problems, and I feel like Iowa fans will be glad to see them leave. A little bittersweet, but we'll be glad to see Iowa fans happy again with Iowa wrestling, because Iowa wrestling used to be one of the greatest teams in the country, but now you're seeing them not even make it top 10 half the time, or fall between top 1 to top 5. You know, so who's gonna step in? Who's gonna like change the system or bring in someone new? I don't think it's gonna be Schwab, like I said, because Schwab is staying with his team. That's his alma mater. He's gonna stay with his team. I think he has built something great at Iowa, and he's not gonna leave that. So who's gonna step up for you, Iowa? And as we also talk about Iowa, let's talk about Iowa. They're banqueting wins from Iowa gives up wins from the 2023 season. Why? Compliance and eligibility. Same story as we always hear, but the truth is how it's played out. So, first it's a few wins and more, then suddenly everything's gone. So, Iowa, Coach Duran has contacted NCAA saying that he messed up, and they took a few wins away, but then they took all the wins away now, and this inconsistency hurts the program, players, the fans, and of course people are going to bring up the Cyhawk game, because that just took a win away from the series. Now why? Well, because Fran contacted a player a few, I think, hours before he could legally do it, and that caused a lot of drama, and they took all their wins away from that season. They didn't win a lot of season games, but why does NCAA want to fight? It hurt the Iowa Hawkeyes when, if you look at Michigan, they cheated, but they didn't take all their wins away. Hey, you saw that cheated. You know why? Because they got money. Iowa doesn't got money. You look at their facilities, their locker room is great, but they don't got money like all these bigger schools, SEC schools, the big, some of these other Big Ten schools. They don't got money. They don't got a lot of money for a lot of recruits. Yeah, Iowa taking these wins, or the NCAA taking these wins away. Why? They won't do that for other schools. They'll take 3 or 4 wins away. Coach Duran even decided to set out one game in the 2024 season. So, the NCAA, what are you doing? Pick a side. Where's the legal in this? Where's the legal side of this program? So, I feel like NCAA should, really pick up their slack and log ahead for a bit. Now, we're going to head up north. Should Wartburg College move to D2? Now, this is a big one. Should Wartburg move to D2? Because let's be honest, they win so many times. So people look at that and say it's time, but it's not that simple. What happens to the athlete scholarship change, competition changes everything. Yes, I feel like Wartburg could beat some D1 schools, some D2 schools, but they have so many players on their team because of, you don't have scholarship rules. You can't scholarship players. You can't sign players, and I think Wartburg could move up. It's just a matter of them staying in their programs doing so well at a D3 level. As a student athlete, I would love to see him move up because I would love to get money to bowl. But I think Wartburg's doing so well at a D3 level that they're not going to move up because they're too comfortable like other schools. Some schools, will move up and they won't do so well. Some schools just stay down because they're too comfortable. So I don't think Wartburg should move up. But they are building a strong hit with history. Now, this is where I call D3 and D1 twins. Not identical, but closer than people think. D3 teams like Wartburg, dominant, consistent, culture-driven. D1, more money, more exposure, more talent. At D1 level, it's more of a business, where at D3 it's more of a love of the game. Some D3 teams are better, just like Wartburg, more discipline, better system, tighter culture. But D1 levels, they have more money, more business. It's business side of the sport instead of the uh, more um, more of the uh, more of the low of the game sport. So yeah, you can say they're twins. They can say, look, I want to say they're identical, but they're twins. One got the spotlight, and the other got the foundation. So let's close with the MLB. First, the Twins are on a run right now, or they were on a run. Right at this point, they were sweeping the Red Sox, but then they lost their last game. Then they just lost all 3 games of the Cleveland series. Um, what's the problem with the Twins right now? The Twins they just were the best in the ALC. Now they are one of the teams that are struggling. Um, they were stacking wins, getting hot, and doing it with a lot of ton of national attention, but now they're struggling and fighting for a spot. Yes, the World Series isn't even close right now. We're still in the season, still in the start of the season. But like the Twins are downhill, especially with their ownership and how they're treating fans and a lot of things. Then you got Jordan Walker. He was on a six straight game with a home run. That's not normal. You don't really see that anymore, especially in the early season. When a player gets that locked in, it changes everything for a team. The Cardinals, like all my friends hate the Cardinals, and I don't know why I'm talking about the Cardinals right now. But he's shown something. I think the Cardinals is grown for a sport team. Um, but then as we talk about more of the Twins, so the Minnesota Twins last Red Sox game, a fan yells at Jarren Duran to kill himself. Jarren Duran has mental issues. He has mental illness, and recently, last year or 2 years ago, he talked about how he almost killed himself, but he survived after a gun uh, did not work. Um, but I hope this, fan realizes what is done, and not welcome back to the stadium. Jarren Duran has grown as a player and person, and breaking that line of fan to people, because all athletes are people. That's like what I want to talk about D3 too. A lot of D3 athletes are people first. They're student athletes, and like D1s where it's athlete students, and where people think the pro level is you're just athlete 100% of the time, where you forget that they're people too. So that's what I really want to talk about today. But that's all I got for today. College sports shifting, Iowa programs under the spotlight, and MLB bringing both highlights and controversies. If you're not paying attention right now, you're missing some big changes. This is Boulda Sports Talk, and I'll catch you next time.